Listen Up, the new album from New Found Glory, might be more of the same from the band, but it's got some really great songs, some tasty riffage, and might be the perfect album for us old as fuck 30 and 40 something year old pop punk fans. I'm gonna break it all down on this edition of Rock Album Review. Listen Up is the 11th studio album from New Found Glory. It's the follow-up to 2020's Forever and Ever times Infinity. Hey everybody, it's Nick here with you. Welcome back to the channel. And of course, New Found Glory are very well known for their early 2000s pop punk heyday with hits like My Friends Over You, Head on Collision, and Hit or Miss. For New Found Glory, I was a fan of the band back in the day during the early 2000s pop punk heyday. I liked their songs that they released back in the day from albums like Sticks and Stones. Really love that stuff. But it was in 2014 with their album Resurrection and their 2017 album Makes Me Sick that I really became a big fan of New Found Glory. And to me, Resurrection is one of the best pop punk albums of the last 20 years or so. Both albums are still the classic New Found Glory sound, but with much bigger, chunkier riffs and some pretty hard-hitting production. It was New Found Glory, but heavier. And I'm happy to say that this new album, Listen Up, reminded me a lot of Resurrection. In a good way, it had that same high-energy, riffy vibe, and this new album, it got me going, man. One of the things that I love about New Found Glory is that they just tend to seem to be a little bit riffier than a lot of the other bands in the pop punk genre. Right from the get-go in this album with the song Boom Roasted, we get some major riffage that is almost metal in a lot of ways. Of course, it's pop punk, but I was getting some metal vibes from some of the riffs on this record. Some of my favorite riffs on Listen Up were 100%, Laugh It Off, and a love song. Guitarist Chad Gilbert is still bringing some major riffage on this record. And to go along with those killer riffs, New Found Glory is also bringing some killer breakdowns on this new record. There are some really headbanging moments on Listen Up, 100%, Beer and Bloodstains, which is a great pop punk song title, usually accompanied by some chanty gang vocals. There are some definite great car moments on this record to rock the fuck out to. Before we continue, guys, if you like this review, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and a like. Let me know you like the video. I'd really appreciate that. And if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, make sure to smash the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. All right, let's get back to it. Jordan Pundik is still a great vocalist and sounds as good as ever 11 albums in. From tracks like 100% or Treat Yourself, he can still hit those high notes, which is not easy to do, both as singers get older and even in the pop punk genre. He sounds great, even though sometimes the notes can be a little too high on songs like Dream Born Again, where it really gets up into that upper register. That's going to be hard to sing live unless he lowers the key majorly on songs like this. Lyrically, this album is classic New Found Glory. I always get the vibe from the lyrics on New Found Glory records that they're calling people out, whether they be friends or spouses or other people in their lives. They always seem to be calling bullshit on people. So you know what, guys? Don't mess with New Found Glory or you might end up in the lyric book. Some of my favorite lyrics on this album from Boom Roasted: sing along till your heart breaks. That's like a classic New Found Glory line. 100%, my word is cement. I'm gonna give you 100%. I love that song. I love those lyrics. And then I love the song Treat Yourself with its lyrics and its sentiment about giving yourself a break, basically practicing some self-care and just taking care of yourself. You know, we're always so hard on ourselves as people, especially in modern society. So it's cool to hear a song to say, basically, let yourself off the hook, give yourself a break. And that's a sentiment that I think a lot of us can relate to. Get off your own case and give yourself a break. In addition to being a well-written record, Listen Up sounds great. The production on this album is top-notch. The thing I love about albums like this is that they're very guitar dominant. There's a lot of guitars in the mix on this record. They're very loud in the mix, but then there is still plenty of room in the mix for the vocals to come through, for the drums and the bass. So you have really loud guitars, which are chunky and riffy, but the vocals are crisp, and then you get a lot of the bottom end from the bass and the drums. But as I alluded to earlier on in the review, I couldn't really listen to this album without comparing it to Resurrection, which is my favorite New Found Glory record. Maybe it's just because I really love this record. It's one of my favorite records of the last 10, 15 years. But everything on this record, from the melodies to the lyrics to the ways the songs were structured, reminded me a lot of Resurrection. But you know what? That's a good thing. I will say, though, that the New Found Glory sound, as awesome as it is on album number 11, these guys have been going a long time, their sound can only go so far. A lot of these songs on this record sound very very similar in terms of melody and lyrics, both on this album, the songs itself, and past New Found Glory songs. All the songs follow a very similar formula, but at this point, we know what we're getting into with the New Found Glory album, and they do what they do very well. And as I got towards the end of the album, I found that I was not enjoying the songs as much as I enjoyed on the first half of the record. Maybe I have to give them a little bit more of a listen, because that tends to happen. This review is my first time listening, and as I enjoy an album, I go back and listen to the songs and end up enjoying some of them a little bit more. But really, the last few songs on the record, Dream Born Again, You Got This, and Frankenstein's Monster, didn't really hit me as much on first listen. And I'm going to date myself here, but I think this album is the perfect record for us 30 and 40-year-old, old as fuck New Found Glory fans. When it comes to pop punk, I feel like the sound is so rooted in the era that it came out, in the 90s and the 2000s, bands like New Found Glory and Blink-182 and Green Day. And I feel like as I've gotten older, it's almost felt kind of silly to listen to pop punk music. I don't know why that's happened, even though a lot of these bands, including New Found Glory, have continued to put out new music long after that 90s and 2000s heyday. It almost seems silly to be listening to pop punk as I've gotten older, but with new music from New Found Glory and bands like Blink-182, I feel that pop punk is proving that it's still a very viable genre no matter what age you are. And I think that it's awesome that New Found Glory are still out there doing their thing. I know that Chad Gilbert was going through some cancer treatments and had some health scares, so it's really great to still see him doing his thing, writing these killer riffs, and the band sounds better than ever. Not every band from the 90s and 2000s pop punk era can claim that, but I think that New Found Glory are doing just fine 11 albums in. Favorite songs for me on Listen Up were 100% Laugh It Off, A Love Song, Beer and Bloodstains, I still love that title, Medicine, and Treat Yourself.
No matter if it's real or ridiculous, we'll always laugh it off.
Listen Up is a good album, maybe not great, but still a solid, enjoyable listen, and I think it's going to be a hit with New Found Glory fans, including myself. I can picture myself really getting into these songs over the next little while, so I'm going to give Listen Up, the new album from New Found Glory, a solid 3.5 out of 5. And that is it, guys. That is my rock album review for the new album from New Found Glory called Listen Up. Make sure to hop into the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the new album from New Found Glory. Do you think pop punk is still a strong genre in 2026? Because I think it is. I think a lot of these classic pop punk bands, in addition to newer pop punk bands, are still putting out a lot of great music, and I think the genre is alive and well in 2026. But let me know your thoughts. If you like this review, make sure to toss me a thumbs up. I'd very much appreciate that. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, you want to chat more about our favorite bands and our favorite music, make sure to smash the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. But I'll see you guys again for another rock album review here on the channel. Until then, rock on, everybody.